Hi, I'm Richard Brown. I'm a psychologist with Step Psychology in Albury-Wodonga, and I'm here to talk to you today about working with our worries, and that is combating relentless worry. Some things that we can do to try and, get away from that pattern if we get into it of, worrying ourselves about things too much. So to do that, I'm going to be talking about a few different areas. I'm going to be talking about some cognitive strategies, some behavioural practices, and some lifestyle practices. In terms of some cognitive strategies, one of the things we can do is we can challenge the worry. So I'll give you an example that a lot of people do relate to at one time or another. And that is, if I'm out and about and I bump into someone that I know, let's say I know them just a bit through work, and I bump into them, but I don't get the reaction I expect. When I say g'day and wave, they actually give me what appears to be a bit of a dirty look and go stomping away. That wouldn't fit with our social norms, right? So when that happens, we naturally go searching in our mind to try and account for that. What, makes sense of that? Why did that happen? Now, if I've got a little bit of anxiety, that might kick me into going into the direction of thinking, what have I done wrong? Which is akin to thinking they don't like me, all that sort of negative stuff. One way that I can work with that is I can think to myself, okay, what evidence have I got that I can use to prove that they don't like me? And if I really challenge myself hard with that, I can be thinking through it. I might start to think, they did do that thing I saw. But then again, that was only one occasion. Come to think of it, last time I saw them, we had a chat, it went well. And so all of a sudden, this is starting to loosen up a bit. I don't really have so much hard evidence. So keeping going with that sort of, challenging the worry is a really good way to start working through our worries. Something else that goes with that quite nicely sometimes is thinking, what else might be happening? And in a social situation like that, this is a good one to think of, because in the example I just gave, I might think, maybe that person I just ran into is having a really, really bad day and it's nothing to do with me. Maybe there's something going on in their life that is terrible, Maybe they've just got terrible news. Who knows? Maybe they didn't actually look and make eye contact like I thought. Maybe they're just thinking. So challenging the worry is really important. Another thing to be thinking about, and this can apply in different occasions, but try to reflect on this thing that I'm worrying about. Is it within my control or is it not within my control? And sometimes people find just that thought a little bit helpful as well. Calming our mind is something that we can work on a bit directly. And there are a few different ways we can tackle that. Firstly, through physical exertion, because we're talking about calming our mind, and exerting our body is a way to calm our mind. A couple of reasons for that. When we're expending energy, that actually works out tension, it works down stress, it releases feel-good chemicals through our body. And also doing something physical like that can give us something to really concentrate on. So playing a sport, for example, you've got to focus on what you're doing. Alternatively, you can practice a self-calming technique. And what I'm referring to here is something brief. So if, for instance, I was doing something and I actually felt myself getting really quite worked up, let's say I had to give a public talk and I was getting that, nervousness building and building and building. A brief calming technique that I have is to just prop and breathe and try and concentrate on the breath going in and down deep, expanding my lungs, and then concentrating on the air coming out. And as I release the air, concentrating on the whole process. And that can work as a bit of a brief self-calming technique for, you might do it for 3, 4, 5 minutes. A guided relaxation, on the other hand, involves listening to someone talking us into a state of relaxation. And if you want to try something like that out, you can generally go to the App Store using your mobile smartphone and do a bit of a search on guided relaxation, and you might be able to download a couple of free things to try out. Another thing that can help calm sometimes is distracting ourselves. I like to say to people, though, that distraction, whilst it can be a good short-term strategy, it's not necessarily good long-term. The reason for that is because sometimes when people use distraction a lot, they come to use that more and more and more and rely on it heavily, and it actually takes them towards being just busier and busier and busier. And ultimately, that's not really the greatest answer we can be heading towards. Another thing that people find very helpful in terms of calming our mind and stopping that worry is practicing mindfulness. And mindfulness just simply means being in the moment. So if I go and I get a freshly made great cup of coffee from somewhere, and I sit and I look at it and I take a smell, I take in the aroma, and I take a sip and I sit there concentrating on the taste, and I really take in that taste and savour it, then that's bringing me into the here and now, mentally into the moment. And that's something that can really calm our mind. Another time when we can do that very readily is if we're with a group of friends and we're talking and we're really listening. Especially when we're really listening and we're really thinking about what they're saying and what we're going to say, that's a good time to be in the present moment mentally. But we can practice mindfulness at any time, really. Another point I just want to touch on is a bit of stress management. Stress management is really important in terms of working with worry. Stress is a different thing to worry, of course, but they tend to set each other off. Worrying is a stress-inducing activity, and also the more stressed we are, the more likely we are to be worrying about things. It'll make our anxiety worse. So trying to avoid stress in our lives. Again, physical activity is great for stress. Practicing some sort of stress reduction activity, and looking after our physical health also is really necessary in stress reduction, stress management. The more that we are physically well, the more we will be able to cope with stress and manage stress. So our all-round physical health really does play a big role in this, and it's really important element in managing stress in our life. So that brings my session today on working with worries to an end. If you're really, really struggling with worries, please do go and seek professional help. You can go to your GP and ask to be referred to a psychologist, or you may be able to access employee assistance through work perhaps, or through another scheme if you're aware of it. But please do ask for help if you're really struggling with things. Apart from that, thank you very much for listening to this session, and please look after your mental health in general, look after others, and have a great day. Thank you.